Oh, this video is not working, but don't worry. So basically, we were proposing a generative catwalk. So we kind of modeled the behavior with the agent-based coding language. We modeled the behavior of models, visitors, and the zones and the material that kind of covers that zone as kind of holographic lightings. And we started to map out, I don't know why these are not playing. Okay, if this is not playing, let's just forget about it. But what we were doing is we kind of conducted a series of generative methods to generate all these systems, and they are kind of autonomously generated as a collective system to generate the entire geometry. I think this is not very good, but I'll just skip it. As we have
that project is quite, I think we can probably show it in unit 3.
Yeah.
Maybe, because that's pretty similar how we use the agent and attractors, etc. So
yeah, it's a shame that I couldn't.
And you'll probably have a chance to have a look.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this video. Yeah, but it was
okay.
Yeah, pretty fun to have kind of like coded behaviors and simulate the different kinds of relationship between different agencies within the project. And in this second workshop, we were just very explicitly using the algorithms to use that as a generative tools for generative like landscape element or geometries. So it's less precise, but more like playfully applying different algorithms to generate different urban kind of urban elements. So, for example, in this team, they were interested in the erosion kind of process to kind of determine how the use of agencies can kind of generate transform the narrow streets into something more like occupiable and inhabitable. And like they are like kind of suggesting how the narrow streets in Korea can be turned into some larger niches, and they were using these algorithms to try to generate that kind of pathways using the erosion algorithm. So you can see that in this workshop we have been using this algorithmic method very intuitively as a modeling tools. So that's kind of what we do a lot. In this case, we were using this algorithm to generate different porosities they can control with the parameters, and speculatively they created a bridge between two buildings. So for example, generative algorithm to generate geometries. So that was the second year, and we actually realized that the first kind of instead of being very geometry based, something a little bit more can talk about how the geometries can work with the system and urban system that could have been much more appreciated or can be discussed better. So maybe let me just show you the final kind of in the third year, we were kind of also using the similar approach, but in a little bit more precise way, but still using the agencies as a modeling technique. So for example, this kind of agent-based modeling process to create like flocking trails. So we were using these very explicitly as modeling tools to create a bridge in this case. This is done by Dong-Yoon, I believe, which was when he was our student, and later he became our assistant tutor, and this year Dong-Yoon is our one of our main tutor. So yeah, so this year was quite explicitly about how computational algorithm is used in very creative modeling tools. But similarly, from 2015, we started to have 3 different units with Daesung and Jaewon Jinsuk's unit. So in Daesung's unit started to investigate this. So to understand the urbanism as an aggregation of uh, of of the unit and components, to understand it as aggregatable patterns. So they were investigating different kinds of mathematic patterns to generate different kinds of arrangements of urban units and understand that as urban spaces. So when they're overlapping or when they're creating different voice and overlapping voice, and they can be all understood as different kind of urban spaces. So they have been conducting a series of these type of exercises and applied that into urban proposal. And these are few different uh, team projects based on this idea with different shapes, geometries, and algorithms. Of course, I'm not completely correct when I'm explaining other units to, work. So our tutors can always interrupt me and add your comments, or you can also add your comments at the end of my talk if you want to take time. But like always, like you can feel free to interrupt me. And in this year, we started to have the first social unit, which was very exciting. And from my understanding, of course, I'm not the social person. Yeah, but I think I will just maybe try to explain from my understanding, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong. So in this unit, it's really interestingly approaching the urban topics through the series of engagement with the people that they meet and in the actual site, and they're mapping out different key personnels, and kind of I'm just going in general, so kind of like really looking at different people's behavior, their needs, and based on the interviews to understand what our needs is in this very specific given site, and do series of analysis and create a lot of different diagrams and maps, and map out different questions and problems. And finally, they were also proposed certain changes. This can be a very physical changes, or can be a very software-based changes, or programmatic changes to be inserted in this specific area. So there are different diagrams, such as like just by changing certain corners, or adding certain elements in the facades as such to kind of trigger certain programs and social behaviors. So it's kind of very interesting agenda, which you can see that it's slowly getting very, very different. Yeah, and then moving on to the 2016, we then started to, sorry, so I think these are just few photos of that year. from this year onwards, I think we started to work on same site. We decided to work on uh, Karibong area. Yeah, so Karibong-dong is a kind of a slum-nice kind of area, and we started to work on that and started to have more kind of conversations in between. Here are just some photos of how we work during the workshop days normally. So I can just flip through some photos. They're just interesting to see. Um, Sorry about the speed. They are huge files, I think. Or maybe my computer is very bad. Yeah, so they were also going to the site and actually work in on site with the the, the clients, which or the residents. Um, some of these, yeah, some of these photos are just some work in progress. This year, we also Daesung was also making uh, made physical models out of their patterns using 3D printer and CNC machines. Um, yeah, and of course, like series of um, workshops, public lectures. That's all fine. And I think starting from this year. So this year was another year for Daesung's unit looking at the similar issues of aggregation and starting to also looking at different variations of different geometries and understand urban areas and propose in architectural and urban proposal. And what's interesting this year was they pushed quite a lot in trying to make it into physical model. So that was an interesting aspect. You can see that they produced this in physical model. And in my unit, so before my unit, I think it's interesting to show the unit one as unit one and unit three was looking at the same site, unit two. And similarly from last year, they're using they're using the similar technique of drifting and meeting people and interviewing and mapping out the different kind of activities and social needs and creating really interesting kind of proposals how to insert certain social programs. And what's interesting here is they also propose I believe, as a web-based kind of ways of engaging with people. Of course, I don't know in detail. You can, of course, add your descriptions today. But I think what it's kind of mapped out was very interesting, and the idea of using the website to gather and collect data and gather the social behavior online, I think that is a very interesting aspect. And here also proposing certain physical outcome or kind of a proposal to illustrate what these how their research can change uh, or become a more like tangible application or proposal. So I think this year this unit have been uh, quite kind of made some effort to try to have more tangible output, especially the physical changes or programs. And interestingly, using the app and social media as kind of a trigger for different social engagement. I think that was also interesting. You can see that there are a lot of physical proposals, which was a way to kind of engage in the discussions as a social algorithm kind of a, a team. And then my unit started to look at different algorithms, but in a way to use these algorithms to engage with urban analysis a little bit more instead of purely being formal. So use shortest path and uh, sigma-based growth logic, and we were mapping out a lot of different prospective shortest and longest routes for different needs of social group of people, and kind of overlaid all these most frequently used routes to create a proposed route for publicity. So these are the ways of choosing uh, which portion or which part of this area to insert different programmatic nodes. And then students then went on to design specific nodes more precisely and specifically. So these gave four different key points to be translated. So you can see that if you zoom into these areas, a lot of different urban furniture and urban kind of programs are inserted based on those needs. And then these are transformed, these views are transformed with inserted physical urban furniture or urban installation. So these are how they were proposing to transform by transforming certain nodes of certain parts of this entire site to create a coherent kind of proposal as a whole, as a master plan. And coming to 2017, we also we still were in Karibongdong area, which is very lively, looking like this. There are a lot of old people there. Students were very much enjoying visiting that area, looking at their historic buildings, taking analysis and pictures, and also gathering information. Also, this is Sewan, Sangha. We were also doing site trips, looking at different historic areas of Seoul. Yeah, of course, we are going to miss these kind of activities this year, and hopefully can have that back next year. But coming back to the work in the Unit 1 with social agenda, similarly, they went on to much further with engaging with the people and residents there. And they took a very aggressive move, such as doing some surveys, but there was another team making a plan, putting a kind of a panel out and saying this area is only for Korean, or this area is only for Chinese, and they made the residents quite mad. And it was, like, I think, but they are kind of trying to use certain active behavior to trigger certain kind of social engagement with the residents there. I think it's also a very engaging and interesting approach. Yeah, so as I described, these are not just one project. They were going and then creating different kinds of diagrams to propose different ways of triggering different programs. Yeah. Yeah, and they also made some effort to propose it as a more like, tangible geometry. I think that was also very interesting. And same year, in my unit, we were also using the same site as last year. And this year, we were very aggressively using data visualization technique, using mapping all the data on GIS on OpenStreetMap. So they were gathering their own data and then put it up on the online map and try to utilize that to make certain decision. And in this case, they were inserting this deep line as one proposal. So these are just different sets of uh, ways of how they are finding the zip line starting point and ending point, and ending point to be like a public area like this. And there are lots of detail how they found or analyze this data. But for example, this zip line is meant to be mixing two different groups of people, because in Karebong area, there are the distinct residents are Chinese people and Korean people. There are a lot of Chinese residents in that area. So using this zip line, they try to let these two different groups of people to mix together or come together into one area. So they were analyzing different data, but they found that in neighbor map and by2 map, they have different information, for example, which also kind of means that these two different groups of people might want to go to different places. And that also was used into one of their decision maker trials. And these are some proposals, how they analyze the height and the increments. They propose this kind of inserting these kind of programs within the site instead of doing a lot of physical changes or structural changes. Another team proposed a Chinese kind of street dancing as a program to insert within this area. So they will use series of diagrams or analysis to find where is the most suitable rooftop to let this street dance happen. So these are the sets of diagrams how they analyze, and these were one of the speculation of how they are applied. And this year, Deson's Unit 3 was explicitly going three-dimensional and structural. So it was quite interesting that they were kind of investing three-dimensional structure using the similar kind of approach with the component aggregation, and produced series of 3D models, physical models, and the pavilion proposal. So that was interesting. So here are a few more slides of different projects. Was also working on 3D model and proposing a structural element. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Also going to 2018, which is the last year. So I'm showing Unit 3 first. So this year, so the previous year, Unit 3 was working on 3D model and structural analysis. And this year, they were going three-dimensional in urban scale. So they proposed two different programs, two different projects explicitly going three-dimensional. and looking at how the three-dimensional aggregation can be understood as urban proposal. I really like these sets of diagrams, how the aggregation is understood in sectional point of view, and analyze what is their potential of usage when they are tilted. So these are three-dimensional aggregation studies, and they produced an interesting section of this crazy tower and kind of proposals on the urban site. This year, Unit 1 and 2 were using also the same site, but we changed it to Gangnam Terminal, which is a very historic, brutalist three-dimensional building. As you can see here, it's a bus terminal. And both units were looking at similarly, both units use the site drifting method and data visualization method. These are the overview of how this building is looking like. Just some photos. I'll just go through it quickly. So these were some overview. And in my unit, we were using this method. We have used the data visualization method. So we went onto the site and collected different information from meeting people and mapped it out on firstly on the paper, and then to Excel file, and then to Grasshopper, and visualized all these different data of these three-dimensional positions, such as brightness and activeness of the business and stuff can be also utilized. And one of the interesting factor was probably this yogurt saleswoman, as this and one of the team, I think it was Unit 1, we were also kind of mapping out that. And also they were trying to map out the most Instagram liked positions and shops, and they at the end that became their proposal. So one of their proposal was that because nowadays everybody can find their shop, their destinations through navigation system, and this as this Amazon warehouse, you can see that nowadays they don't sort objects per alphabetic order or per size order. They are sorting this. This is a Amazon warehouse where you can see that like everything is kind of mixed out because you can find them as long as they are indexed. So we kind of trying to introduce that idea into this building, because this building has a very distinct separation of this of the program per floor. So they proposed mix them out in order to activate this building as a whole. So this was their diagrammatic proposal, and then they also tried to map out the most socially liked shops within this building, and also routed out their route. So these are the probably the most well activated route, and then all the others they try to like shuffle the programs and stuff. So this was their proposal, and quite interestingly, they made this video and they proposed a Ghostagram application, which of course it's a fake one, but the idea is to use the Instagram or this application to engage with with the building and exchange their kind of likes and comments, and this can be also become their trigger of their accessibility. So this building, there are a lot of closed shops. They are just currently just closed or just became storage. So they're trying to use this method to activate that and lead people to find things around. So I think that was interesting kind of proposal. I think Hyosan was in this in this unit. Yeah. And finally, Unit 1 also similarly using the same site and the methodology. I cannot quite explain this, but I think also use the mapping methodology quite explicitly while they're meeting different people, and that was mapped out with this incredible diagram, and they did a lot of kind of programmatic proposals how to activate this area, this building. So yeah, that was quite interesting. Yeah, so that was my overview, but I might want to invite Jay, Chun, Taesong to maybe add few more explanations, additional explanation and comments. And if I have mistaken anything, can explain.
Well, just because we are on this screen, maybe Jay, do you want to explain a little bit about last year's Unit 1 project? Because as an example.
Yeah.
You're
mute.
Your mic is off.
Jay, you're mute.
Actually, generally, Sumin's explanation is good, and I'm really happy to hear that. And also, I think generally, I want to say the aim of our Unit 1 proposal between 2015 and 18 is to redefine and criticize on metropolitan Seoul and overcome the city condition, existing limitation or city condition from our engagement and research, direct action, meeting from the people in the site. So we try to make a different dimensions of city, some levels. So that's what we're trying to do so far and through the workshops. So the reason why we are doing urban engagement and direct action is to decide or define the city itself by city, by not ourselves. So that's why we try to go into the site and find something deeply. So that's the way I wanna add as a kind of our trial or our aim. So yeah. But also, and I think through the workshops, and I all the time we tried many times to think together both sides on the desk between computational thinking and our side. And we sometimes find some kind of interesting point and others is failed. And I think through this workshop, maybe we are starting out of some kind of technology or some computational and way of thinking out of with our lecturers, and then we try to figure it out whatever later on maybe about what we're trying to look at so far. So yeah, that's fine.
One thing I want to add is when we say Unit 1, 2, 3 on this presentation is not quite the same as our Unit 1, 2, 3 this year. Just to be clear, because for the last 6 years, we've done Unit 1 as focused more on the social agenda, and then Unit 2 and 3 focusing on a more digital algorithmic design. And then within the whole overall workshop, we had a chance to discuss and then debate about the methodology of architectural design. But this year, it's our social agenda is more sort of melted onto this digital tool. So now it's kind of the starting point of our phase 2. And probably the outcome will be quite different from what we've seen so far on this screen, because we are testing the new tools, and probably some of them are pretty similar, some are quite different. And what else I want to say is, yeah, I mean, just to add a little bit about, because we're not going to have many chances to explain about this social agenda. What we've done in Unit 1 was testing the site and trying to interpret the site with a direct action. So it was more about the people and the real city, and we try to find how the real city works. So not only looking at the physical structure or the space or the architecture, let's say, we try to find those physical structure together with the social structure. So the network with the people and how the program works, and what kind of key personnel are there to trigger the social programs or to make the city work, etc. So I hope I mean, it's too short to explain all this complicated issues, but I hope you have that kind of in mind, that we are still working with this social issues with a digital tool. So don't forget that.
I think
sorry.
No. I think that's great. I think what's interesting this year is a major shift, and by considering that we are conducting it online, we decided to go quite specifically heavy tool-based or computational tutorial-based, because online tutorial and physical tutorial is a bit different. It needs a lot of like one-directional teaching, although we encourage you to feedback and engage. That's why we shaped our workshop to be heavily tool-based teaching this year, and hopefully you can bring in certain kind of humanistic touch to these tools in the second half of this workshop, which is what none of us are experienced yet. So the tutors we invited this year, the lecturers are very much like expert in different technique and computational tools and technology. And we want to also learn that, and using that, try to use those latest technique to kind of see how we can also approach it with our architectural design and urban design. But we don't specifically think you have to produce a architectural proposal for this workshop. It should be more about that specific methodology and certain tool sets that you develop. So yeah, but it will come together with the actual workshop. So I guess we can. Dae-sun, do you have any comments?
No, I'm happy about your explanation. It's pretty much great, I think. But one thing I can say, I'm trying to find some kind of simple but smart system. So it's a bit away from, like aesthetic or kind of thing. I mean, so It doesn't matter about the size, it's more about the system. But the system is constructed by a very simple rule set. And then we try to find something unseen value from that simple, organization. So, honestly, I would like to say I'm really focused on algorithmic thinking, not the computational, tool tip. That's it.
Yeah, so it's good that everybody understands our different expertise and you can ask us the right questions. Yeah, during the workshop. But please feel free to talk to any of us if you have any question. This workshop is also a very interesting experiment for us as a curriculum and pedagogy. So yeah, hope everybody is excited. Maybe for the rest of the time, we can do some Q&A session. And I'm going to use just last 15 to 20 minutes to explain very boring InDesign packaging stuff. Yeah, so there will be boring part. Yeah, any of our tutors want to add any comments? Or also students, feel free to ask some questions if you have.
I just want to encourage the Korean students who will be quite shy. This is not an English workshop. It's not about the language. So you have to speak up, guys. Just use all your language skill to communicate. I think if you don't communicate, if you don't start communicating in the day one, you won't learn a lot. Please.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
If you have any question, but if you cannot like make it to English so far, it's really okay with this speaking Korean sometimes. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And other people can help translating that into English so other people can understand. Yeah.
Just speak out, please.
Okay.
That's fine. How are you feeling, everybody?
Come on.
It's amazing how quiet it is. We are in the room of 50 people. And I think it's important to show your feeling and to so that like yeah, and then if you are happy with it or if you are I don't know unhappy, if you don't understand, just show, express your feeling and just make a big sigh so that your tutor can understand that you're not following. All right, I think everybody's following.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is
So
it? Oh,
it's Mayur here.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like, when you're using agent-based behavior, is it follow the lines of cellular automata where there are different algorithms which defines the behavior of those agents and
yeah,
like
same thing.
genetic?
Yeah, so cellular automata is also based on object-oriented programming. So they are each individual agents have certain rules, and the rules are kind of working together and create collective decisions as a whole. Yeah. So in a way, it's same algorithm or coding structure. Yeah. Okay, we can wait for 5 more minutes for your questions. Yeah. Before we dive into some boring exercise.
I have some question, but I'm not sure to translate to English, so can I speak with Korean?
Yeah? Who is
Yeah.
it? I can't see.
진동, 김진동.
I'm Changyeon Cho, and I'm sorry to didn't prepare the camera.
Oh, 장현초. Okay.
그 알고리즘을 만드는 데 있어서 그런 로지컬한 방법이라든지 되게 여러 가지 방법이 있다고 생각을 하는데 이때까지 항상 해왔던 방법들은 다 형태에 관해서 만들어진 알고리즘들을 이용해서 건물이라든지 혹은 로직들을 만들어 왔는데 소셜 아젠다를 이런 피지컬한 것들에 어떻게 접목시키는지가 사실 지난 학기 스튜디오에서 공부했던 것 소셜 아젠다를 통해서 소프트웨어적인 것들을 바꾸기 위한 요소로서 사용한 게 요소를 바꾸기 위해서 피지컬적인 것들을 만들어내는 방식으로 사용을 했는데 그런 방법 이외에 하드웨어적인 것들을 디자인함에 있어서 소셜 아젠다가 어떻게 사용되는지가 그 연동이 잘 안 되는 거.
So let me translate the question. If I understood it correctly, Chang Hyun was asking based on his understanding of algorithmic approach that is applied normally in a way to generate form for certain kind of organization, and he's confused or cannot really foresee how this can be used to deploy kind of applied in a social agenda in urban approach. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, I think basically algorithm doesn't have to generate form. Algorithm actually doesn't really generate form, but as a lot of architects or designers are using it, especially like in my case, and Daesung's case as well, we are interested in using those approaches to create structure. But this is just one approach. It doesn't have to be that. And here we have been trying to communicate that idea for a long time with this workshop. There are a lot of different ways of using computational design thinking to do a lot of different things. Of course, what exactly can be applied, I think there are so many ways to apply algorithmic thinking in any aspect. So I think it's a very generic thing that everybody can use. So I think throughout this workshop, we want to also answer that question more specifically. And it is our kind of responsibility to maybe have more broadening more of that applications in practices to give you more examples and references. But in a way, it's possible to be thought in very creatively. For example, you have a pencil and you're asking, how do I use this? It can be used in anywhere, however you want. And we have to just make some references and examples to show people how this can be used. So it's just a tool and thinking method. Yeah, there's no place that can be applied or cannot be applied, in my opinion.
I think social things or social issue can shape the physical form. For instance, U.S., Donald Trump has some issue with the borderline, right? So they built a huge iron curtain on there. I mean, those kind of social issues change the physical shape. I mean, very simple thing. So I know the Unit 2 and Unit 3, they're dealing with some kind of, you know, like connectivity on city network, or they try to find some kind of, you know, hidden, you know, knowledge from social interconnection, right? I mean, those kind of information can change the physical form, or, you know, apply to the, you know, decision how you dealing with the material itself. So I mean, that's how, I mean, it's my opinion, but that's how we like a social agenda can connect with a, you know, computational thinking or computational tool with the actual physical form itself. So I mean, I think there are lots of like a fundamental question over there, but I mean, don't be overwhelming the heavy, you know, like thinking or pressure. I mean, you can
Yeah.
apply in anything you want. I mean, so this is a more like a experimental lab. You know, you develop your own, I mean, your own idea. At the same time, you also develop your, you know, skill as well. So it's very very open to, you know, like all different types of, you know, thinking. So that's how
Yes.
we work together.
I
Also,
want to add. Oh, sorry. Go on. Jay.
go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say that Changhyun probably had already experience with this social agenda, maybe. Am I right? Because he's got the right question. Because that's the question that we always get, and that's the question that we are trying to answer. And then this workshop is part of it. But what I want to say is, what I want to ask is to Changhyun is, what is the form that you're talking about? I think we have to question ourselves that what form are we talking about? Is this the building shape, or is this the part of the building? Is this the like part of the elements, architectural elements? It can be the size of the opening, it can be a detail of the facade, or it can be a small elements of the city. That's also the form. It's probably not a architecture, but it's the form of which forms the entire city. So I think in that sense, if you think a little bit broadly, then whatever we're doing with the social agenda and then and using the algorithmic tool, it actually forms the city. But I think when you ask the question, that you probably thought, okay, building form making, form finding exercise is slightly different from what we are trying with the social agenda, which can probably dictate the location of a certain element or the distribution or the territory, etc. So I hope you guys try to put these two skills together so that we can experiment much more out of this. I don't know whether that helps.
Yeah, also, I think if you are Unit 3, I think this workshop, and then we are at the Unit 3 trying to maybe visualization or trying to delineate about the urban situation or urban condition. First of all, our algorithm computational thinking. So I think like what Sumin said, I think algorithmic thinking or computational thinking is part of, I think, way of looking at the world, I think, you know. So by doing that, we maybe dig out something out of a city and then we draw, or we making something out of city, we make it, and then we think about what kind of form, what kind of architectural space, what kind of architectural proposal we can design. I think those all opportunities are open to us, I think. So I think the way of we are doing is, I think, not technical way of thinking or a way of looking at the world. So in a way, I think maybe through this workshop, maybe I think each unit will trying to maybe draw or finding or making some kind of diagram. First of all, not just as architectural form, I think. So in a way, maybe it's part of answer will be in the workshop. So enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Any more?
Great conversation. Yeah. Go on.
It's. I feel like it's the last day of the workshop. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
it's just
sure
the
that we
beginning.
will have the same conversation at the end of this workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I have a go at this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had the same question as well. I think like 5 years ago, but
Yeah.
I guess I think the outcome it's not necessarily to be a form. I mean, because I mean architecture, we also think about like programs, circulations, and zoning stuff like that. I think we can use the outcome of the process to like to determine like the best circulation or where to put the areas or the service areas, something like that. Or it can be programs and what kind of program we need to propose for this building, something like that. It not necessarily a form of physical stuff, but it can be something else, I guess, that is related to architecture or urban design. To say like, I don't know, I think that is my understanding.
Cool. Thank you. I agree.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, we have 10 more minutes left, but maybe we can just go on and I will just do that boring session. Is that okay?
Yeah. Make it 10 minutes to me. Yeah.
Might be slightly longer than that, but it won't be like more than 10 minutes more. Okay, so thank you for all the tutors. If you want to you can leave the room if you don't want to go through this boring session, but it was a really interesting conversation and we hope we can have more conversations like this. Cool. So
we're allowed to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. All right.
Only for 10 minutes or?
Yeah, it might be more than 10 minutes. So
Okay.
yeah. So this session, whoever is doing 2 weeks session, who have to update, submit your assignment, you have to participate in this session